Thank you for tuning in to the Natty News Daily podcast. This episode is brought to you in part by our sponsor, Core Nutritionals. You can check out corenutritionals.com for all your supplement needs and use code Natty News Daily at checkout to save 20%. Enjoy the episode.
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Natty News Daily podcast. Now, this is kind of funny because last week we jokingly said that I don't know when you're going to see the three of us again because of our schedules. And, well, look at that. The three of us are back. How convenient. So this episode, we made it happen. The three amigos. As you can see, I have a bookshelf. James has a bookshelf.
I have lots of boxes.
Dan's next in line for a bookshelf. So
I got two bookshelves.
We got two bookshelves. I've got a mic now. So like
fancy.
Natty News is
you could afford that with the Canadian taxes.
Dude, have you heard about the carbon tax?
Oh, God. You have to return that mic.
We're gonna be derailing this podcast immediately.
I'll just lay it out for you. We're getting hit with this thing called carbon tax, where everything that they deem to be causing basically environmental damage is going to get taxed more. So gas, for some reason, like healthy food, basically anything that like ideally is not more expensive. They're like, yeah, we got you. So, yeah, Canada, but we still have all our bridges up. So we're up on America.
Oh, low blow. Have you heard about that, Dan?
No.
We're taking Natty News to a whole new level.
Yeah, this is news in itself. A cargo cruiser lost power and like slammed into a bridge in Baltimore and collapsed the whole thing. People have died, Leroy, so it's
yeah, no.
A little morbid. Yeah, rough night. Yeah, why are we talking about this?
Taxes.
We can't blame the government for that one, surprisingly. No. I love to blame the government for lots of things, but I don't think you can blame the government for something crap.
Somebody did. I saw.
Oh, the comments are ridiculous. Like, people are nuts. Yeah. They're like, why did the lights go out as soon as it hit the bridge? I'm like, they were losing power on and off the whole time. Hence why they hit the bridge.
Yeah. They were blaming like the poor infrastructure in Baltimore, and like a bridge engineer was like, no bridge is designed to take a cargo cruiser like dead on. Like, are you kidding me? Like, come on.
Man, I saw someone comment, they're like, bridges don't fall like that when they're hit by cargo ships. And someone replied, they're like, how many bridges have you seen hit by cargo ships? Like, just anyways.
With the conspiracies.
Yeah, we'll save that for another episode, Conspiracy News Daily. Anyways, we're going to talk about Dan's prep, because Dan is officially on prep. Man's flying 7 pounds down in 2 weeks. Is that what you posted?
Just about that. Yeah, probably close to like 6.5. That was just a low weigh-in, but yeah, right around there.
Nice. Putting all the effort into posing, which I love. I love to see the posing effort, which is awesome. Yeah. And it's showing, man. Little tweaks here and there. It's coming together, which is good.
Yeah. I'm pretty happy with how things are progressing. Still lots of things to do, and I still got to work on transitions and whatnot too. So I've been posting stills and the better stills too, and holding those shots too. But it's starting to come together.
Yeah, posing. I talked to a client about this morning. He's competing in 18 weeks out. He's doing classic and men's physique. He did them both last year. And I'm trying to, so he's a junior, and I'm like, man, just jump in junior bodybuilding. Like, just throw the trunks on, bang it out. Because I think he's going to do better, or at least better in junior bodybuilding than he thinks he might. And he had said today, he's like, man, like, I don't know, I'm interested, but I don't know if I'd like fade or burn out on stage, or like if that makes any sense. And I was like, that's a fair question. I was like, but for perspective, the WMBF lightweights at Worlds was 40 minutes of judging nonstop. And like up here, like the CPA judging, like it's usually quite quickly. You're prejudging maybe 10 minutes at best, right? Especially in like the smaller categories, like you might be up and off stage after one round, some movement, and then game time. So it's good to see that, like, Dan, you're putting that effort in, because it'll show when you get that posing conditioning, which is kind of what I was basically saying is the better you get at it, you could be up there for however long, and it's to some extent irrelevant. Like obviously if you're rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds, you're gonna get tired. But if you're up there for 2 or 3 rounds and you've practiced enough, like cakewalk.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Every morning.
That's good. All right. Let's start from the top. Where have you started with everything? Weeks out, macros, expenditure. Give the listeners a breakdown.
Yeah, so coming out of off season, our peak off season body weight was about 198-ish, somewhere around there. Peaked right around there. Calories were at about just shy of 4,000 a day. Quite a bit of food. That was actually not, I didn't peak my body weight like I did prior massing phases just because I needed to start prep. I still was like I wasn't getting any hunger or anything like that. So I went into prep like in a good spot to just for fat to just fall off. Right. Right out of the gate, dropped about 1,000 calories. So eating just shy of 3,000 on training days, and a little bit less on 400 calories less, I guess. A fair bit less, I guess, on my one off day. Steps 8K is the target. So that's actually technically my objective throughout off season. It kind of tapered off towards the end of off season a little bit. It was probably in the more like 7K range. I still wanted to get 8K, but I was more sluggish, honestly, and it just wasn't as much of a priority. But
and that's
it
relatively
was still
substantial for you, right?
Yeah, I have to actually move to do that.
That's so bonkers to think
it
about.
is.
I feel like I do 8K by like noon.
Yeah, so I was obviously, and you guys know, I was in Denver this past weekend, and a few days I was at like one day I was at like 17K, and I was just like,
Jeez, were you going hypo?
No, I was fine. I was whatever, but I added food. I was like, yo, Josh,
Oh my
I'm
God.
adding food. Like, I don't need this 1,000-calorie deficit or close to 1,000-calorie deficit to be like a 2,000-calorie deficit. So
hey, get ahead of the game, bud.
yeah. So, yeah, occasionally I will do that sort of stuff, which Josh trusts me to make rational decisions when doing that, and I err on the more conservative side when I'm in prep. So, and body weight continued to drop through my trip. But yeah, that's kind of the protocols at this point in time.
What are your macros?
I'd have to look at the exact numbers.
You don't know?
The way I track a little bit differently. So I hit a calorie number, which I know is 2995. And then my fat is about 55 grams, protein's 250, and then carbs fall where they may, which I think it's 350, 375, something like that.
Okay.
I hit calories, protein, fat, and then carbs just fall where they may. So I track a little bit differently.
Well, if you're hitting calories,
yeah,
then you're hitting like the carbs would be exactly the same regardless to make that number,
pretty
right?
close. There's some variability in like different types of carbohydrates, like fiber and that sort of stuff. So that's just the way I've always tracked. But...
Okay. This is good because it's very different to how I operate. It's different to like how like I do prep. James even like James and I are kind of working together right now, so it's probably different to what he does too, right? So this is so interesting to hear different dynamics, and I think this is just a prime example that there's no one size fits all. There's no process that's like this is exactly how you need to do it, because all three of us could prep 3 different ways and still get in shape. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and realistically, like that's just the way I track. I don't know anyone else that does it that way, but that's the way I track, and I've been doing it for
got to be different
years. I don't even know.
Gotta be more complex. Look at the differentiation in carbs. What a psycho.
It also makes it easier if I need to like flex my fat up like a few grams or down a few grams as well too. So it's just like, okay, I know it makes it clean and easy.
What'd you say your protein was at?
250.
So a little higher on the higher side, which makes sense.
That's what I ran it through my entire off season too. So yeah, a little bit on the higher end. But
now, is that something that you've always done, or is that something that when you started working with Josh, you kind of like saw like go up? Because I
We
know
bumped it up.
Bearcat's like on the higher end for his recommendations.
Yeah, we bumped it up a little bit. I think in the past I've been 200 plus for a while. I think prior to working with Josh, I was at like, and I think even my 2021 prep, I ran it at like 225. So, yeah, it's always been a little bit, a little bit on the higher end, but it's gone up.
But
It's also
Cliff
worth
likes
noting-
higher protein too.
It's also worth noting that I've like since I've gone from maybe 200 to 250, like my lean body mass has probably increased like 20 pounds, close to it. So, that's also worth noting. But yeah, I like riding on the higher end. In off season, like my calories get super high. I mean, my carbs are like 600 range. So I get a lot of trace proteins in. So, for me, I think it makes sense to run it a little bit higher. But yeah, I know Chris is, is big on slightly higher proteins, and I've discussed that with him directly, and then Josh is in the same boat. So yeah, we're running about 250.
I struggle to get that much in. Like for me to get 250, so I do a scoop of protein in the morning. It's like 30 grams of protein. Then I'll do another 2 scoops right after training. And then an hour later with like my meal, I'll do another 2. And then I'll do, oh man, because I can't eat, like physically eat that much protein.
Steak, bro.
Well, no, so let me
chicken,
continue.
Eggs,
No,
egg
let me continue. So then I do 5 ounces of chicken with a meal. And then I do
bump that up to 8. What are you eating 5 ounces? You're a
now,
small child?
Now, are you familiar with the carbon tax?
Hey, wait. This just got implemented. What have you been doing in the
Yeah.
past? What's your excuse before
Dude,
this?
no joke. I will probably am 100 to 150 bucks a week on meat. Just meat.
Jeez.
You need to find someone that will butcher
What's like the per pound price of like a chicken breast up there?
So we can get a pack of, is it 6 or 4? Let's call it 5 just for easy math. So it's like
a
one
family pack.
Yeah, at like Walmart. And it's like I dig through to find the heavy ones because they're $22 for like 1 point, like a kilogram maybe.
Now you're throwing in non-freedom units. Like two and a half pounds or something. That's a little bit more expensive. I feel like we get ours. I can get some down here for like $1.99 a pound, and I'll just get like 10 pounds of chicken.
Freedom
and
units.
just blow through it. Wow, that's what they are.
But then I'll do, so basically like chicken is a meal, and then beef is a meal, and then dinner with Carrie. I basically need to crush like 60 grams of protein in some fashion, which usually ends up being like another half scoop of protein.
I feel like you could, because you're relying on the protein a lot. Go with like, use like milk, like skim milk for the extra protein, or like Greek yogurt and some of these things. Like you're missing out on some of like the dairy, I feel like.
Because me and dairy are sometimes hit and miss.
Yeah.
Dairy bullies me sometimes. Actually, Greek yogurt I'm decent with because I was doing, but it's like when do I eat that? Because
get rid of one of your shakes and just do like a little like Greek yogurt, scoop of protein, and like cereal on top, like late at night.
Yeah, might be onto something. Anyways, we need to go back to Dan.
Does the coach need to be coached? I'm gonna run you through my structure one of these days. We'll get you figured out.
Anyways, back to Dan. So, okay, we got macros out of the way. Training. You said you have 6 training days?
Yeah, I train 6 days a week.
What's that split?
It's heavily modified push legs pull split. That's how I describe it in a nutshell.
Heavily modified. Can you briefly describe the heavy modifications?
There's a lot of like I train
like wrist extensors and like
I
soleus
train
work.
Forearms too. Like I have direct forearm work 4 times a week, twice wrist extension, twice flexion. I train biceps on my push days. I train rear delts on my push days. I train abs on my leg days. And then triceps I train on one of my pull days. So there's some tweaks that I've made based upon what I see I can fill it in with.
Do you throw the rest day in where needed, or do you always have it same?
Thursday every week.
Thursday every week. Okay. Okay. All right. Show schedule. You got that confirmed yet or no?
Nothing confirmed, but in my mind I have it, tentatively confirmed.
Can you disclose those to the thousands of viewers or no?
I'll disclose whatever. I don't care. I'm pretty open. Yeah, prepping kind of with Ontario, WNBF Ontario being the first one, which is September. I should know that, but September 9th, 7th. Yeah, it's
jeez. Good thing I got it.
Dates.
I'm just under 24 weeks out. I know the weeks. I might do some other shows in between there, or between there and Mr. America is definitely on my schedule as well. So that's, I don't know the exact date. It's like around October 10th every year. Maybe I think it's the 12th this year, but it's right around that timeline. So, the main two objectives with this season, I am striving for a WNBF Pro card and would like to place in the top 50% at Mr. America, in the top half.
In the bodybuilding class, correct?
In bodybuilding. Yeah, all bodybuilding this year. No classic physique for me.
Are you going to, so you're an OCB pro, but not utilizing that this season?
Technically, for Mr. America, I am, but yeah, probably not. I mean, maybe I change that if there's a show that makes sense or fits into my schedule. But it's tricky because, as you guys know, like, you have a pretty limited time window to compete in and be in condition in. So you have to prioritize, the shows that you want to do, and so for me, setting those two objectives are the main objectives.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shows I would love to do. I would love to do some OCB shows. I'd love to
for sure
USBF. There's a lot of things I would like to do. Maybe try my hand in the NPC just to see what happens, right? And see what the buzz is about. But I know. But I've got to prioritize and list out what I want. So
that's something we've talked about before, right? Is having like seasonal goals, like, every competitive season that you kind of jump into, map out what the targets are for that season, and then kind of tailor your show schedule around that, right? Like, it sounds like for you, WNBF is probably the priority, right? If you were to say, okay, what's my one main objective this year, it'd be WNBF Pro card. If you earn it,
I don't know if I put them 1A, 1B, so like those two already, but
such a politician.
I've gone back and forth on which I prioritize more in my head. Like, I really love that Mr. America.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually telling a client about that today, that Mr. America, if they wanted to do a show, because they're talking about next fall season, and I was like, they're like, what's your take on, because they've only competed within the CPA, and they're like, what else is out there? And I was like, oh man, how long you got? And Mr. America was like Dan said, it was like top of the list of shows to do.
Yeah, and hopefully, like, just with this podcast that we're, getting out to some people and knowing what get some knowledge out there as to what's out there. I have so many conversations with people that are natural, or even on Instagram, I see people commenting that they're natural or see that they're natural, and they don't even know that a lot of these orgs exist and these shows exist. So
yeah,
hopefully we're getting the good word out.
Cool. Okay, so let's say you earn your pro card. Are you going to Worlds?
Question probably would depend. I lean towards no, just because that's so late in the year. But I don't know. If I've got wind in my sails still, I might extend it to Worlds. But if I'm peaked at right around like Mr. America, like early October, that's another month or so. I've got a whole condition, so maybe. Like I said, I lean towards no. I think I'd be more likely to do a WNBF Pro show and shut it down. But I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll just say let's go for it. We got the opportunity to do it, to send it. But
so potentially only a 2-show season then?
I'll likely fill it in with more shows. It's just kind of like,
Yeah.
I
Seeing
might
what's
do
around
like we've talked about this. I might do Natural Mania too, which is in between Ontario and Mr. America. But like a lot of that's contingent upon like how well Ontario goes. Like, if I earn pro status, then I guess I would be able to compete at Natural Mania as a pro
Yeah.
because they have the pro universe. But
You
yeah,
could go.
that's
You could go as an amateur too and turn pro there, and then
I could turn
compete.
pro there and then compete the next day, or actually, well, no, because it's probably I think it's the same day. But yeah, there's
Yeah,
just a lot of like
what ifs.
shuffling and what ifs, and if this happens, this happens. But yeah, it's likely all gonna fall within that rough time frame. If I'm ready a little early, then I might pull the trigger in an August show. But I'm guessing right around that early September is when I'm gonna be good to go.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Talk to me about like mindset for this season. You've been away from the stage now for a couple of years. Obviously your lifestyle has stayed similar, but your work obligations have changed, your obligations with Natty
Yeah.
News have changed, like just other lifestyle factors have changed, your exposure to bodybuilding and what else is out there has changed. What are you going into this season headspace wise?
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed offline. Maybe I don't know if we've discussed detail offline. I know I've discussed it with Josh, but my biggest concern is just with the, with some of the work changes that what impact that's going to have, especially late in prep. And if I have to, I mean, I can work, but being in a corporate environment and
Can you elaborate on that? Because people listening probably don't really know what you're referring to.
Yeah, so I've been working from home remotely, which is great for me, up until September of last year, and then we moved to a 3 days in office, which threw a little bit of a wrench in my schedule. Don't have, and we talked about it off air about like the freedom over your time, freedom with your time. So I lost a fair bit of that, and like I don't know, like the corporate environment, it's all right, but like it's not my social place, right? And it's yeah. And when I get deep in prep, yeah, yeah. You guys see me in like when I'm like hyper social, and I'm not always like that. So
Well, I saw you day out at Yorton, and you were zombie mode. You were trying to be enthusiastic about like seeing me and everything, and you were, but like you could definitely tell like when you're that deep, you just like glaze a little bit. And
yeah, I
everyone
mean,
does.
I lose a little bit of that, but I think that was more so like just like, I mean, it was that too, but it's more so like, just I'm so like hyper focused, like it's tomorrow, like I need to do everything right, right, like versus like you guys see me in off season, it's like I have my stuff to do, but it's like I'm not competing tomorrow, right? Like my entire year that I mean, you got to think like that was my main show that year too, right? Like that was it, and I had been prepping since March, and it's like okay, so you came in at kind of at that time, so but yeah, I mean, I do, especially it definitely like scales up, like my desire to be social definitely scales down as I prep, but I still love being in like the bodybuilding type environment, but work wise, it's like if it's related to doing my job, I'm fine with it. But people want to chit chat, I'm like, no.
Okay, so you got put back 3 days. Now where you at? You full time back?
Nope, it's 3 days, 3 days a week.
Yeah. Oh, it's still 3 days.
2 days a week from home. Yeah.
Are those consistent days or does it vary?
It's I go in the days that I want to, so I work it in my schedule.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because like everybody gets accustomed to the situation they're in. You know what I mean? Like you're so used to that, for the most part, like complete time flexibility up until the 3 days, and even still, you're still like somewhat control of your time, at least 2 of the days a week. But it's crazy. Like I remember when I was doing like personal training, and I was like, at that time, I was instructed to do like fasted cardio because that's what I had to do. And I remember getting up at 3:30 in the morning because I had to be at the gym for 4 to bang out an hour of fasted cardio. So I would wrap up by 5. And then I didn't want to just like immediately jump into training, which started at 6. So I would be like at the gym and just like somewhat like I was eating whatever I had, probably egg whites and spinach or some bullshit like that, but just trying to like bring myself to the world and then like train clients for a couple hours and then like do my actual workout, go home and just like veg out for an hour or two and then go back and train clients. Like it just you get so accustomed to the world you're in, and when that changes, it can really throw you for a curveball.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then job wise, there's some other stuff that we can discuss off air. But um, yeah, that's where the situation I'm at. So
That's fair. That's fair. So you know, going into prep,
yep,
control the controllable, right? Like there's only certain, you can control the aspects of prep that you can control, and outside that you kind of just have to roll with the punches. And I think that's something that potentially people that are listening that are first time competitors are like trying to learn too, right? Is how to just kind of let the ebbs and flows of prep and things outside of that just brush off sometimes, right?
yeah, yeah. Just do what I can, right?
100%. Yeah.
It does bother me deeply that I don't have full control over my schedule.
It
Right?
bothers me
You guys,
deeply.
you guys know me, but what can I do? Can take steps to modify the situation, but at least in the short run, got to do what I got to do.
Do what you got to do, man. Do what you got to do. Got to pull the trunks up and off we go.
Yes, sir.
What's your, like, do you have like a long commute? Like what's your day? Like 8 to 5, 9 to 4? What's the day?
It's pretty flexible, but my commute's about 30 minutes or so. So
Mm.
I mean, I can just kind of go in. Um, I don't have set hours, but um, yeah, it's
When are you
pretty standard work day.
when are you training on those days? At night?
Uh, yeah, I'm training in the evenings. So
Is
pretty
that
much my entire day. My entire day's working, work, train, eat, sleep. That's it.
is that because you're like a 1, 2 in the afternoon, right? Is that like prime time if you were to train when you want to?
I like training in the morning, actually. I
Oh,
train.
you are a morning lifter.
Yeah, I usually train after a meal. I like to train with a meal in me,
Okay.
but that's
So
it.
training at night, you're like, this is bullshit.
Uh, it hasn't been terrible, but I prefer the morning training. Just definitely have more energy in the morning.
Mhm.
I'm able to caffeinate in the morning as well, or caffeinate more heavily. Um, James is laughing right now.
James is like,
I, I,
man, we like Stone Cold Steve Austin some monsters and go train at midnight.
I know. I'll
yeah.
do like 50 milligrams of caffeine, like in the evening, like if I'm training, but
Do you
um,
notice any like sleep disruption if you train in the evenings? Because like if I train like remotely close to when I'm gonna go to bed, I'm like my adrenaline's just still rocking and I can't sleep.
I haven't had too much because I still have a little bit of downtime between. The bigger issue was more. I think actually a bigger issue was more in off season when I was slamming like
Yeah.
1,000 calories post training. Like my post training meal was like 220 grams of carbs. So, um, that was the more painful part.
That's fair.
But I do okay actually with a fair bit of food and getting to sleep. So, as you guys know, but that was just a lot. Like at the end of the night to eat that, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta eat another meal too,
Ooh,
right? So
that sounds terrible.
yeah, do what I gotta do. What I gotta do.
Do what you gotta do. Um, trying to think of what else. James, you got anything else off the top of your head? I'm trying to think. I had something, I just lost it.
We can talk posing if you want.
Oh yeah.
I know
You asked about like
posing is a
mindset going
huge
into the season.
priority. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
I know that I've lost placings in the past by posing, and I think it's a massive disservice to myself if I don't present the physique that I have. So I've really taken like, okay, you really need to get this straightened out. This is just embarrassing for you to not present yourself in a good light, right? With all the work you put in. So, or that's the way that I'm looking at, and I've continually just every day posing
Yeah, I
and
was gonna
just
say, so what's your plan of action with that?
yeah. So working with opposing coach weekly, working with Emily Schubert, who's a IFBB women's physique pro, Olympian too, really really good pro.
How'd you get connected with
So
her?
at the gym, she goes to my gym.
Okay.
So I said, hey, like, Emily, I want some help with my posing. I want some eyes on me in person. So, set up a time, and I do that pre-training on Sundays. So that's once a week, or will be once a week throughout this prep.
This
I
is
think
a
I'm only,
paid service.
yes,
See, it's important, people listening, like, posing coaches exist, right? Like, your
yeah,
coach can only do so much, and Dan's fully acknowledged that, like, I want somebody in person. I need to work with somebody in person. He's paying for that service, and it's already showing, and it would only continue to show through prep and on stage. So let that be a lesson for the listeners.
yep. And then on top of that, posing every day, just making that part of my routine. I use the bathroom, get my body weight, start hydrating, and then pose right there.
You going through rounds, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going through all, basically just going through all the symmetry rounds, all the relaxed shots first, and then go through the muscularity shots right
Yeah.
after. So
Yeah.
just it takes me about 7-8 minutes. But yeah, going through all that and then recording that, um and evaluating. Just kind of, scrolling and
Yeah.
seeing what looks what. And yeah, I've been posting that on my story every day. Some of the things that I'm seeing, like, okay, that looks good, or oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kind of sharing that process on my stories every day. I know I've had a few people reach out and say, "Oh, that's cool. I like that you're doing that." So
It's good
um,
you're going through the rounds too, because I find, like, especially with clients, they'll just, like, do their pose for like a second or two, and then next pose. Do their pose for a second or two, and next pose. Like, I used to have, I might still have it. Actually, it might still be on YouTube. When I went and did my first INBF show, I had the prejudging recorded, and I would play that and just, like, let it play. And as I could, like, obviously hear the head judge and everything like that say, like, core turn to the right, core turn to the right, and I would just, like, do that as if I was on stage, because I
yeah,
found, like, even for me, who's someone that, like, I like to think I'm like a stickler for posing, I would catch myself just like, okay, 1 2 drop, next pose, 1 2 drop, and, like, that's not, it's not helpful. Like, let's be honest. Like, that stuff isn't conditioning you to get better at posing. You're just, like, hitting a pose for the sake of it, right? Which is, you want to display a physique on stage, which means, like, getting good at holding the poses, transitioning to the poses, breathing through the poses. That's something Daniel talked about, is breathing. Like,
yeah.
that can make or break a pose. So again, your efforts in that are going to show.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff I haven't even gotten to yet. I've been, posing daily for what, 2.5 weeks now. I have not gotten to, like, to transitions and stuff, so I can't say I'm proficient with transitioning and
Yeah.
breathing. Still a lot of it's just like, I still
Positioning
still
and
need to
stuff.
get better at, like, holding my poses, or just because a lot of these certain shots I can get in right away, and I know exactly where I need to be, like, side tricep, especially on one side, like, I can get that in that, like that, and hold it. But like side relax, it's like I'm like, going through a checkbox in my head, like, to get in. So it takes me a few seconds to get in, and then, like, I'm in, and then I'm like, oh, I'm losing this. Oh, I'm losing this. Don't lose this. Don't
Yeah.
lose that. Don't lose that. Lock that leg. Oh, you got to breathe it. So it's just it's a
It's a
challenge.
lot. It's a
It's
lot,
like
man.
certain
And
poses are definitely easier than others. Like side relax is freaking hard, man.
and that's like the motor learning side of things, which takes a while in itself and takes a lot
Yeah.
of repetition. But also, like you've talked about, I mean, we very, very briefly just talked about like specific mobility drills to get into some of those poses better. If you have a true like tissue limitation that's inhibiting you from like getting into a pose, you can't just get rid of that in a week or two before your show, right? Like those are things that you need to work on for a long period of time to improve, whether it's like a true, tissue shortening, a contracture, or just like actually learning how to control, expand, relax certain muscles. It takes time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I notice like my lats, like, in the off season. I don't know if it's just because, like, I'm just physically, like, bigger, and there's just, like, a little bit more stiffness and lack of mobility, but I find, like, even to flare my lats at like 190 versus even when I'm like mid 170s and starting to tighten up a little bit, there's just that little bit lack of mobility at the higher body weight for sure. I feel like a big block.
You are a big block.
Yeah,
Cool.
I don't have anything to say on that. I don't know.
All right. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that we want to touch on?
I guess we
feel
could
like-
talk about body weight if you want.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know you
What do you-
have some high goals for how much lean tissue you've added, but I think it's pretty realistic looking at like comparison of photos. But for the people that haven't been following your story quite as long, how much do you think you added, and in what time frame?
I think I've added about 10 pounds, close somewhere thereabouts, since 2021. So yeah, about 10 pounds in whatever 2.5 years since my last time stepping off stage in November of 2021. So pictures seem to reflect that. So yeah, I'm starting this prep quite a bit heavier than my last prep. Currently I'm like 190, 191, which is not far away from where I started my last prep, and already have lat striations and pec striations and that sort of stuff. The legs are always the last thing to come in for me, but I'm starting to see separation, a little bit of separation in my quads, which is nice. But yeah, last stage weight was right around I think Mr. America was about 161. I saw some high 150s weigh-ins later in my prep that year. I think maybe 157, 158, but I was 160 plus on stage, I think, at every show. Maybe I was 159 at the Orton, but yeah. So hoping that that's going to be
Same as
high
me.
160s. What's that?
Same as me.
Body weight?
Yeah, I touched 159 after carb up. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So do you
hoping it'll be
think
high
those
160s.
last times, do you think that you like 100% nailed your conditioning, or do you think the stage weight will actually be around the same, just with much more tissue and better conditioning? Like, what's your target to get to?
I'm targeting to get pretty close to that mark, that low 160s mark. I I don't see it maybe getting below like 165. Just because my upper body comes in very quickly, and the last little bit is getting my legs in. So, and when I say like that last little bit, like by last little bit, I mean like 15 pounds. So it becomes a little bit of a trade-off.
That last half.
Yeah. Like there's a few areas that I lose body fat up top, but like to a large, at least in past preps. In past preps, like to a degree, I like that end of prep, I kind of watch my upper body like almost fade. uh,
Yeah, it's tough.
so
for
it
sure.
almost, there's certain times it almost doesn't even look tighter. It just is because it's so flat. But my legs just need a little bit more, right? So it can become a little bit more of a trade-off. But I think I've added a lot of tissue in my legs too, though. So I think having more muscle will yield a more conditioned look, so to speak. I think that's something that's underrated. I think often the best way to set yourself up to look conditioned is to be big and have muscle, because more muscle you have, the thinner that fat spread. That can apply to Gen Pop whoever too, because it's the more muscle you carry, the leaner you can look at a given body fat percentage. So, yeah, I mean, I think especially if I can really hold on to the muscle in my legs, which I have decent muscularity in my legs, like my lower body muscularity has never been an issue. But I think, and James, we this, like my hamstring was a massive issue in 2021. So went into prep, that was not at 100%, like not even close. Versus now it's coming in. I wouldn't say it's 100%, but it's way better. It's leaps and bounds better. So I think theoretically that should yield me, better conditioning through my hamstrings, and then added muscle through quads, glutes, like glute med specifically. Definitely have added a lot of muscle there. So hopefully that will create a more conditioned look. So, but yeah, I don't see myself under 165. I could be wrong. Maybe I can keep pushing past 165, but I kind of see my stage weight being in those high 160s. And I wouldn't be surprised if I see a 170-ish, at least at the front end of the season. But we'll see. I'm digging like I need to get down to like 165.
So 30 pounds ish.
Yeah, right around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 24 weeks.
Well, I'm like 191 now, so
yeah.
so close to like 25. Yeah. And this front end of the diet, I'm pushing for like 2 pounds a week. And then I laid it out with Josh, like it's, I'm kind of approaching it in clips of like 8-week clips aligning with just my mesocycles. So I have 3 of those. First one, I'm shooting for like 1.75 to 2 pounds a week across that. Then tapering off to like a pound to a pound and a half, and then the back end it's like half a pound to a pound. So tapering off that deficit. So I can get a lot of body fat off quickly, like on the front end, which I already have. But by the back end, I'm hoping it's a little less than a pound a week that's needed.
Cool. Right on, man.
That makes sense.
Looking forward to watching it. Not gonna lie, a little jealous. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the itch.
I'm looking forward to competing with you boys both there.
Yeah, it's gonna be a party. I'm gonna be hooting and hollering for you. Let me tell you.
Hooting and hollering.
That's a Canadian. Is that Canadian or what?
I think it's redneck is what it is.
Fair play. Fair play. All right, people. Well, if you guys enjoyed this episode, getting some insight into Dan's prep, I'm sure it won't be the last time we dive into it throughout the next 24 to 30 weeks or so. But as it stands right now, he's off to a pretty damn good start, and we'll be watching closely, man. Can't wait to see it unfold, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I will be my best.
Ooh, checkmate. All right, people. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.